Hi there, YouTube. This is the Magnus, bringing you another Total War Warhammer online ladder battle. Today I'm playing as the Beastmen, and my opponent chose to play as the Greenskins. So let's take a look at the build. It has 3 Bestigors in the center, and then on either side 3 Ungor Spearmen Herd for a total of 6 of those. In the rear here we have 2 Centaurs with great weapons. We have 2 Gorbals, Malagar the Dark Omen, and a Cygor. And of course we have Malagor ready to summon another Cygor. Let's take a look and see what our opponent did here as the Greenskins. It looks like he has a front line of Savage Orcs, 3 of those. They are backed up by 2 Black Orcs and 2 Orc Biggins on the flanks, and then 2 Orc Biggins in reserve in the rear. He has Orc Boar Boy Biggins, a Giant, 2 Goblin Big Bosses, and Grimgore Ironhide. Now, just looking at the way his deployment line is, it looks like he was planning on playing defensively, but with no artillery or no, arrow guys at all, it's going to be, I think he's going to be hard pressed to get away with that, especially because we brought the big one-eyed guy. And for one eye, he's got some great depth perception. So we'll give him credit for that. A lot of enthusiasm to go along with it. So initially my opponent doesn't move. I'm not going to, because I'm waiting for enough Winds of Magic to summon my second Cygor. And I'd like them to have as much time as humanly possible to fire. Now I advance a little bit and then I see him advancing, so I'm going to go ahead and stop, because I know I'm very close to being able to summon the second Cygor. So I deployed back to make sure that both of them would have a chance to fire at maximum range. That way they can get in as many shots as possible before my opponent arrives. So there you see another big guy crawl out of the earth. Now if you looked at the patch notes that are coming on Thursday along with the awesome DLC, these summon units like this are going to basically take damage over time that accelerates, so that they're much more temporary and not permanent for the entire battle. So the first rocket's chucked at a little goblin here. Pretty hard target, so we can understand missing that. But now we're going to try firing at the Orc Boar Boy Biggins. One goes long, but that one does not. Smash right on top of their heads. Going to do some pretty good damage and remove 6 models from the field. So then I see him shifting his cav this way. I don't know if he's doing it to protect them from the Cygor, or because he intends to do something. So you notice I shift my cav to mirror his, and then he's going to come back to the center, so I'll do the same. And the whole thinking behind all of that is, these Centaurs are there to take care of cav, so you always want to make sure you have them where you need them. And that's why I didn't deploy them on both flanks, or 2 on one flank, because if he comes from the other side or whatever, I'm gonna have to make a huge adjustment. Whereas when they're in the middle, it's a lot easier to get them where they need to be, at least in the in the planning stage here before the actual fight. So I kept thinking he was gonna bring these guys in here like that or something, and I was getting ready for it, but he doesn't. But it looks like his line's about to reach me much quicker than I expected, and that's because he didn't wait for his slower units. He pushed the Savage Orcs up so they could get there quickly. So I'm of course going to take the counter charge. I'm going to hope to grab his cav here, and I send both of my Gorbals towards the Giant because he's a giant threat to me. And now I'm going to try to work my cav in through here and just get rid of these guys right away. But instead what's going to happen here is they're going to get trapped on some biggins here. Not a good fight for them, so I am going to pull them back as soon as I can. Still throwing rocks at some of the Black Orcs here. Very important to soften them up, because infantry-wise, there's absolutely nothing that I have that can hang with that unit. Bestigor is just not going to go toe-to-toe with a Black Orc. The Bestigor may only be 100 credits less or 100 gold less, but he's nowhere near that kind of combat effectiveness. So you see now I've got to try to work my cav all the way out and around, and with having such a long line, I should have deployed them way off to the side now that I think about it, because just trying to get around all this is a freaking nightmare. So far I'm keeping my Cygors in chucking mode. I haven't put them into melee mode. And so far it's a pretty even up fight. But he's got three, all of his Savage Orcs are retreating, but then I have a Spear retreating there and a Bestigor here, so I'd say it's pretty even. It looks like the Spear's going too. Now I'm trying to get in and around and get into his stuff here, but we're kind of going to get clipped on our own men a bit. But the goal is to get in on this giant. Going to see if we're able to do that. These Bestigor rally, so we're going to send them right back where they came from. Over here on the left flank, it's just, it's touch and go. It looked like my guys were winning, then it looked like they were losing, and then I brought over Malagor just to throw some extra DPS in the mix and get a little bit of a rear attack there. Now's where my center really starts to fall apart, including one of my Gorbals is going to run for it. So I start chucking rocks in there thinking, well, it might work better. Yeah, it's going to hit more important stuff of his than mine. My guys are already fleeing, but I don't think that was the way to go. In hindsight, I should have charged them in. Now my left flank is wavering. My center is non-existent, and I'm getting my butt kicked on the right. But, a lot of my retreating men look like they're going to be salvageable, and they are becoming so. So here comes my Centigors trying to put a hurting on the giant. He still has a decent bit of health left. He hasn't had a lot of kills because he's been fighting a lot of heroes, but he's definitely put in work. So now comes my two big guys, and they're like, okay, we may not be as strong as you, but we're big and we have rocks, and there's two of us, and they have all their health, whereas the giant's pretty beat up. So the balance bar right now looks like it went back to the center, which is a good thing. Over here, Malagor's help allowed me to eliminate that flank, so I'm going to be able to hook back in. On this side, I'm still holding them up, but I don't have any expectation of winning there. Now his giant finally starts to waver, so we're hoping we can get rid of him. One of my Cygors gets knocked over. Hard to believe that's possible, as massive as these guys are. Just trying to stone him to death, and down he goes. And when a giant falls, it never stands again. Right now it looks like it's still dead even up here. And now I'm piling a bunch of guys in the center. And the advantage is many of his have broken and are not coming back, whereas almost all of my units, either now or very soon, are going to make an effort to come back into the battle. So as you can see, numerically I have the advantage here. The question is, can we break Grimgor Ironhide? He's a very, very tough character in the lore and in the game, which is very fitting. Now he's going to bring in everything to try to help Grimgor out, so all of his orcs are going to rally to his side. One of my Cygors is just about as good as dead. The other has half of its life left, and looks like they're getting the better of Grimgor. And as you can see, all of my guys, almost all of them came back. These ones are coming back now, and in comes the Centigors even. They haven't given up. So the advantage to me is I had as many run as him, but my boys are rallying, whereas his are not. So now it's just a matter of taking out Grimgor, and I think we have the win here. So he takes a big boot there and goes down to next to no health, and we have a win for the Beastmen. Now generally I would say this matchup, I believe, favors the Greenskins. I think they're the better faction here, but it's a fun one to play because they're both so aggressive. So good game to my opponent. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape. My Spearmen did pretty well, to get 52 kills or 32 out of a very cheap unit is great. The Bestigor did well. Centigors were a disappointment, and after thinking about, I should have had them out on the flank and whatnot, I think getting rid of these two and popping in a giant might be a better choice. My Cygor and my Summon Cygor did very well. As you saw, the Gorbals did well, but were unmanned by the Giant and Grimgor. Not too many things can kick a Gorbal's ass, but they definitely did. And Malagor, summoned another Cygor, plus helped turn the tide on the left flank, so I was pleased with him. Looking at my opponent's army, his Orc Biggins did extremely well, racking up a lot of kills. Savage Orcs not so much, but they did get there earlier, which, helped reduce the impact of my Cygor, so I do think they had a part to play. One Black Orc did great, the other one got stomped. His cavalry, his Orc Boar Boy Biggins did not do well. His Giant did. I don't think it had a chevron at the beginning, and I think it earned it by beating the crap out of my Gorbals and the infantry in the center, so it did a really good job, and Grimgor and the Goblins, of course, were a good factor. So it was a very close fight. I mean, I lost 779 out of 994. Losses were heavy on both sides, percentage-wise. A very entertaining fight, and I think, having the Cygors was my advantage because I had range, he did not, which kind of let me dictate things. He had to come to me. And two, them coming in there at the end with all their terror definitely made a difference in shaking up the Greenskins. So anyways, if you enjoyed the battle, if you learned something, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Until the next time, this is the Magnus, and I will see you on the ladder.